The 2026 World Cup is not just another World Cup. It is the biggest version of the tournament football has ever seen. For the first time, 48 nations will be there. 104 matches will be played. 16 host cities will be involved. And instead of one host country, or even two, the tournament will stretch across Canada, Mexico, and the United States. That means the World Cup is no longer just a tournament. In 2026, it becomes a continent-sized football machine. The opening match starts in Mexico City. The final ends in New York and New Jersey. Between those two moments, the tournament will move through massive stadiums, different climates, different time zones, and completely different football cultures. This is why 2026 could be the most chaotic World Cup ever. Not because it is random, because everything is bigger. For decades, the modern World Cup had a rhythm people understood. 32 teams, 8 groups, 64 matches. A clean move from the group stage into the round of 16. In 2026, that rhythm changes. The field expands from 32 teams to 48. The number of matches jumps to 104, and the group stage becomes 12 groups of 4. That one change does more than add games. It changes the psychology of the whole tournament. More teams means more dreams. More teams means more unknown matchups. More teams means countries that usually watch from home now step onto the biggest stage in football. But it also means the tournament becomes harder to read. In the old format, you could look at a group and understand the path quickly. Finish top 2, you move on. Finish 3rd or 4th, you go home. In 2026, the top 2 teams from each group advance, but so do the 8 best third-place teams. That creates a tournament where the group stage does not just happen inside each group. It happens across the entire board. A third-place team in one city might be watching results from another city, waiting to see if their goal difference is enough. A late goal in one group could change the survival chances of a team somewhere else. A match that looks finished could still matter because of the third-place table. That is where the chaos starts. Not in the final, not in the knockout rounds, right from the group stage. The next major change is the new knockout path. In 2026, 32 teams will advance from the group stage. That means a new round of 32. For fans, that sounds amazing. More knockout football, more elimination games, more moments where one mistake can end a country's dream. But for the teams trying to win it, it adds another layer of danger. The champion will have to survive more tournament pressure. There is another night where the favorite can be trapped, another opponent with nothing to lose, another stadium where the story can flip in 90 minutes. That matters because knockout football is not normal football. It is tighter, it is heavier, it is more emotional. Teams play differently when one mistake becomes permanent. A favorite can dominate the ball for an hour and still be one counter-attack away from disaster. A smaller nation can defend deep, survive, and drag the game into a moment where anything can happen. That is the beauty of the World Cup. But in 2026, there will simply be more of those moments. More knockout matches means more chances for the bracket to break. Then there is the geography. This World Cup is not being held in one compact country. It is being held across North America, Canada, Mexico, the United States, 16 host cities. Huge distances, different climates, different stadium environments, different travel demands. A World Cup match in Vancouver does not feel like a World Cup match in Mexico City. A night in Seattle does not feel like a match day in Miami. Toronto, Monterrey, Los Angeles, Kansas City, Dallas, Atlanta, Boston, Houston, Philadelphia, and the Bay Area. Each city adds a different atmosphere. FIFA has said the schedule was designed to minimize travel and maximize rest where possible. But even with smart scheduling, the scale is still massive. This tournament stretches across a map in a way football fans are not used to seeing. That creates a different kind of pressure. Not just pressure from opponents. Pressure from movement. Pressure from recovery. Pressure from climate. Pressure from rhythm. The teams that handle the tournament like a mission, not just a series of matches, will have an advantage. Squad depth matters. Staff planning matters. Recovery matters. Travel management matters. The best team on paper might not be the best team after weeks of movement across the continent. 104 matches between June 11 and July 19th. That is the number that makes the whole tournament feel different. Every day there will be another storyline, another result, another table shift, another upset warning, another fan base convinced this is their moment. For viewers, it could feel like football overload in the best way. For teams, it creates a tournament where focus becomes a survival skill. You cannot just be good once. You have to stay sharp through the group stage, then through the new round of 32, then through the round of 16, then the quarterfinals, semi-finals, and final. The longer the tournament gets, the more it tests the full organization behind a national team. Not just the starting 11, the bench, the medical staff, the analysts, the coaches, the travel team, the people managing recovery, training loads, and mental pressure. A World Cup is already the most intense stage in football. In 2026, the stage gets bigger, but the margins may get smaller. The expansion also changes who gets to dream. With 48 teams, more nations get a real chance to enter the story. That does not mean every new team can win the tournament, but it does mean more countries can create a moment. A first win, a shock draw, a group stage survival, a knockout upset, a night that becomes part of that country's football history. This is where the 2026 World Cup could become special. Because chaos is not always bad. Sometimes chaos is where the best stories come from. A giant nation under pressure, a smaller nation playing with freedom, a favorite forced into an uncomfortable matchup, a third-place team barely surviving the group, then becoming dangerous because nobody expects them to stay alive. That is the dark horse effect. And with a bigger field, a bigger bracket, and more moving parts, there are simply more places for the unexpected to appear. This tournament will give more nations the chance to become the team nobody wanted to face. It is easy to look at the bigger format and only see problems. Too many games, too many teams, too much travel, too much noise. And some of those concerns are real, but there is another side to it. The World Cup is supposed to feel global. It is supposed to feel bigger than a normal football competition. It is supposed to pull in countries, cultures, styles, and fan bases that rarely share the same stage. In that sense, 2026 might be the most World Cup version of the World Cup. More countries involved, more fans connected, more stories happening at once, more ways for a nation to matter. The challenge is whether the tournament can stay clear enough to follow while becoming bigger than ever before. That is the balance. If the format feels confusing, people will complain. If the travel feels too heavy, teams will feel it. If the bracket gets messy, favorites will hate it. But if it works, 2026 could produce one of the wildest football tournaments ever made. That is why 2026 is not just bigger, it is different. A bigger field, a longer match list, a continent-sized map, a new knockout round, more pressure, more survival paths, more nations trying to turn one summer into history. The 2026 World Cup will be clean on paper, but once the ball starts moving, it could become chaos. And that is exactly what makes it worth watching. This is Road to the Cup. The stories behind the biggest tournament football has ever seen are just getting started.